You're listening to the Shorts and Series Podcast, episode 68. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/shortseries. With over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Patreon. To figure out how you could help infuse our podcasts with your awesomeness, visit patreon.com/PSM. Hello and welcome back to the Shorts and Series Podcast, the podcast where we endeavor to prove that online video is a force to be reckoned with. I'm Devin.
And I'm Nick.
And Nick, we are back.
Yes, we are.
With Platoon of Power Squadron.
I'm excited. It's a great web show.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, we've reviewed episode 1, and you should definitely go watch. If you have not watched episode 1, go give it a watch, and then come back and watch episode 2.
Episode 2 would not make as much sense without having previously watched episode 1.
True. That is how most stories tend to work.
It's true.
So go give that a watch, then come back here and listen to our review. And if you haven't watched part 1 of episode 2, that's what we're reviewing right now. So what are you doing?
Go watch it.
Yeah.
And then listen to this.
Pause the podcast.
Yeah.
Go over to YouTube.
Or open a new YouTube tab. Even,
oh, yeah. Because
this is a video podcast.
This is a video podcast. So
Might have mentioned that.
If you are presumably watching this on YouTube, just hit pause on that pause button on that video player. Go Command-T, open up a new tab. And watch you some Platoon of Power Squadron.
Do it.
Do it now.
Okay.
And then come back and listen to our review.
So now that you're back, thank you for watching Platoon of Power Squadron.
Yes.
Episode 2, part 1.
And last season, or last episode rather, we got to interview the creator of Jake Jarvie on our podcast.
The creator of Jake Jarvie.
The creator of Jake Jarvie, his mom, joined us on the podcast.
Was a very strange thing. We wish we could have talked to him.
What I meant to say, Nick, was we got to... That was a really weird thing to say. We didn't interview the creator of Jake Jarvie because that would have been an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
How did you bring Jake Jarvie into this world? Instead,
we interviewed Jake Jarvie, the creator of PoPS.
Yes. Yeah. Although maybe next time we should ask to interview his mom so we could interview the creator of Platoon of Power Squadron. It'd be a very meta podcast.
I don't think it would be successful. I think it would be... I think we'd run out of things to talk about pretty quickly.
Probably.
Okay.
But needless to say, we got to interview Jake Jarvie about Platoon of Power Squadron, the whole show. Mm-hmm. It was super fun.
Probably my most favorite podcast, I would say.
Highlight of my podcasting career right there.
Absolutely.
So if you want, definitely go give that particular podcast a listen. Just a little forewarning, it is very, very spoiler intensive.
Yes.
We talk about the whole show to date, every single episode, and every single plot line. So... make sure you watch the whole series if you don't want to be spoiled before you listen to that, but then go listen to that because, hey, it's Jake Jarvie and he's awesome.
He is awesome. Thank you, Jake Jarvie.
Yes. But that being said, this is the first time we've reviewed a second season of a web show. And what we've decided to do is every time we not interview. I can't speak today.
Well,
review.
We were talking about interviews. It's understandable.
Yes. Every time we review a new web series or a new season of a new web series, we're going to start off with the synopsis and credits.
Yes.
We're not going to do it every episode, but every time we start a new season, we're going to do it just as a little refresher.
Exactly.
Because it's been a while.
Yeah. And we always want to give people credit that they deserve. So.
Yes, exactly. So that being said, Nick, if you want to read off the synopsis straight from the IMDb page.
Okay. Platoon of Power Squadron. As 4 20-somethings try to earn a living in an unstable economy, they must also decide what to do with their superpowers.
Yes. And this perfectly illustrates the whole show. It's
absolutely
superheroes, but like with everyday life.
Yeah. Everyday jobs, specifically.
Yes. And that is actually the title of episode 2.
Yeah.
Is episode 2, Jobs.
Thanks for illuminating the segue I handed to you.
You're very welcome.
All right.
And that being said, it's now time to give out the credits because, as always, we want to give credit where credit is due.
You might have realized this was created by Jake Jarvie.
Yes, we may have mentioned that a few times.
written and directed by as well.
Also, Jake Jarvie was created by his mom.
His mom.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did. I was aware. Also his dad, though.
Also his dad, too.
Right.
He did partake of the
Half
process.
and half, really.
Yes.
Genetically speaking.
But before this gets any more weird, let's dive into the credits. Platoon of Power Squadron was directed, written, and created by Jake Jarvie. It stars Craig Benzine, who you may know as Wheezy Waiter.
Wheezy Waiter.
Here on YouTube. It stars Craig Benzine as Donald, Eliza Tozer as Virginia, Carlin Janis as Sebastian, Jake Jarvie as Jonas, and those are our 4 main heroes. And the rest of the cast is Ashley Alexander as Waitress, Mark Bonadies as Taco Maniac, Greta DePerry as Estelle, Tim Farron as Duncan, Sam Grant as Spike, perhaps my favorite character in the series, Scott Hall as Mugger, Jeremiah Miller as Lawrence, Evangeline Politis as McTerrick's wife, Marshall Svensson as Mugger number 2, Willie Wagner as Taco Kid, and Pete Weiland as Dean. It was produced by Tim Farron, Jake Jarvie, Eliza Tozer, and Ryan Wolf. Cinematography was by Ryan Wolf, and film editing by Jake Jarvie. So there you go. That's everyone who made it.
Thank you, guys.
Go let them know that they're awesome. And to any of the creators who may potentially be listening, which I'm assuming... Or watching. Because, Nick, did I mention...
This is a video podcast?
This is a video podcast. It's also a live stream podcast, but we have no one watching the live stream.
No, sadly.
No one cares enough.
I think some people might care, but...
I also think it's the night of the Super Bowl.
It is. Yeah.
I'm assuming more people are probably more concerned about the Super Bowl than our podcast.
Although I don't think the Super Bowl is still playing. I don't know how it works. I'm not a football fan. But people have watched the Super Bowl all day. They might be tired of watching things.
This is true. I'm neither a football fan, but I am a fan of great web series. So let's talk about one. Wow, we said the same thing.
We did.
We have a hive mind. Is that our superpower? We have
what a terrible superpower. Two people can say the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
We
have minor telepathy or minor hive mind, one of the two, or both.
Who's in control of the hive mind?
Neither. It's unanimous.
Collective.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the definition of a hive mind, Nick.
Right, but normally there's like a leader, like a control ship.
Yes.
Is that the company then? Or are we a hive mind surrounding the company?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure, Nick.
Regardless of our silly superpowers, let's move on to the thoughts on the plot.
Yes.
Our thoughts specifically, not just the thoughts, but ours.
Yes. I liked this episode a lot. It was a good segue continuation into the series.
Yeah.
Because last time in episode 1, we established everything that needed to be established.
Especially concerning the characters and their powers.
Yes, we know who the characters are, what they can do. With the exception of Jonas, we're not entirely sure what his powers are.
Other than it's ultimate.
Yes, and that he doesn't use them.
Right. Similar to Dr. Manhattan is the feel I kind of get.
Pretty much. So we got all the establishments. We got our characters, the powers, and kind of the predicaments that they're facing, which is what to do with them. Because there's really no practical application for them or no practical application that they want to pursue.
Right.
So we got all that established in episode 1. Now, we get to dive into the meat of the story.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yes.
I like meat.
As do I. Preferably bacon.
Bacon is good.
It's the ultimate of all meats.
It is.
Yes. But anyways, episode 2, jobs. And we basically get to start off the episode with getting to know more about their jobs.
Yes.
Through these weird plot devices involving these weird, creepy customers.
Pretty much. And anyone who's worked in retail has experienced a creepy customer, and they're annoying.
Yes, they are.
They're very annoying.
Although we see 2 creepy customers in this episode.
We do.
We kick off the episode with Eliza, her character, Virginia.
Right.
She's in her little zone knitting at a yarn store, and this customer's just walking around kind of like giving her the eye.
Yeah.
But in a very...
pretending to look at stuff.
Yes.
Which is always annoying.
Yes. Very obviously, I think, trying to flirt with her. Or at least not even flirt with her, but get to the stage to where he can start flirting. Like, notice me.
Just
notice me. I'm over here.
Almost establishing a real audible connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I like how he's pretending to be interested in what she's interested in,
Mm-hmm.
just so she might notice him.
Yes, it's very socially inept, which might be why it was so obvious to us,
Yes.
seeing as how we are in that category.
I have also I might be as awkward with ladies as this guy is.
All
Let
right.
me just say that.
I don't know what to do with that because it's so true.
Just move on, Nick. There's
Okay,
nothing I'm not salvageable.
Okay, you're right. But so Virginia's obviously kind of weirded out by this guy, and mostly she's weirded out because previously, as we see in a flashback, Jonas had been sort of implanting suspicious thoughts in her head, like you can't trust normal people because they might be working for government organizations or any sort of nefarious ne'er-do-wells.
Right. Basically taking all of the lore that has been established in our society about superheroes, that you see in every comic book or superhero movie that, oh, you have this great power. Now all these people are going to start coming to you to try and exploit that power at your own expense.
Yeah.
He's basically taking all of that has been established in pop culture and acting as if it's actually true.
Right.
And trying to, like, seed that in her mind.
Yes. And to him, it's sort of an exercise in just thinking about it, but to her, it's an active paranoia.
Well, I think for him, it's partially just something interesting to think about, but also just he likes messing with people.
He
So
definitely does. He definitely does.
I think he partially believes what he's saying, but not to the full extent.
Mm-hmm.
The true motivation is just, I want to freak people out and, like, get in their heads.
And he absolutely does, because Virginia very obviously suspects that this is like General Riker or something.
Right. She thinks this guy, who I think is just honestly trying to get her attention, and trying to flirt with her, now because of Jonas. Oh well,
He's gonna like steal her blood and try to clone her or something.
He's a supervillain, or at least a henchman of said supervillain coming after her,
which is not a good thing.
No, and I think that our little creepy customer, if he ever manages to attract her attention, is not going to get the kind of attention that he's looking for.
No, it's going to be a climatic confrontation.
Which also makes you wonder, is Jonas just saying this because he's jealous?
It could be.
I guess we'll just have to keep watching and find out.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyways, so you mentioned that Jonas is implanting suspicion in Virginia.
Yes.
Craig's character, I almost said Craig, but his character, Donald, is pretty much doing the same thing. He's implanting suspicion in Sebastian's mind, but it's the opposite kind of suspicion.
Yeah, sort of parallel plot lines.
Yes.
He wants to actively pursue and fight crime because in his head, that's what superheroes do.
Yeah.
Kind of true.
Well, and again, it's along the same line. It's taking what we know to be true in the lore of superheroes. That superheroes have this almost mandate placed upon them to go out and use their powers to fight crime, and he wants to pursue that.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Which I like. Both of these implanting of suspicions is based off the villain, just in different roles.
Yes.
One is the villains are coming after us, and the other is we have to go after the villains.
Exactly.
Before they start coming to us.
Right.
So I like this dynamic between Jonas and Donald.
Yes. They have similar ambitions but different active goals, I would say.
Exactly. And so obviously now we have basically the same thing going on between Donald and Sebastian that we have between Jonas and Virginia.
Yes. Sebastian is at work at a bookstore.
Yes.
And a fairly creepy looking customer, let's be honest. The suspenders don't work.
So you think all nerdy people are just straight up creepy?
No, I think his particular brand of creepiness reminds me very strongly of Ben from Lost, Ben Linus from Lost.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You can see it?
The very, like, bookish kind of evil person.
Yeah, like, so cleverly evil that you might not even know they're evil at the beginning.
Yes.
So, and that's arguably the worst kind.
Yes. And this guy does seem to be genuinely creepy. He's very nonchalantly talking about, oh, I want to murder kids and put them in cages and make them bleed.
Yes.
That's an evil dude.
I would say so.
Especially when he says it so flippantly.
It's almost as if that's not what he means.
Almost.
Okay.
It does make you wonder, Nick.
It does. But
Spoilers.
he's trying to entrap them, ensnare them with Harry Potter books.
Yes.
It's all
a ruse.
very easily set up to be, this is a very creepy kid snatcher.
Yes. So wait.
Hide your kids. Hide your wives.
So are you saying then that he's after the Harry Potter books because he wants to use them as basically a lure or bait to get the kids, so then he could snatch them,
right,
and then murder them and make them bleed?
Exactly.
That's one messed up dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Instead of free candy, it's like Scholastic free books.
Yeah. He throws on book drives and then murders kids. That's the scariest librarian I've ever heard of. Wow.
He's murdering those with the most potential.
This, you know what this sounds like? An incredibly B-rate, direct-to-DVD horror movie that needs to happen.
Okay.
Doesn't it?
I suppose. The problem is most horror movies don't have kids as the victims, because that's always, like, that's frowned upon.
Not entirely true. It depends where you draw the line as kids, because there's the Freddy Krueger movies where they're like teenagers.
But the actors are all in their 20s.
Well, exactly.
So it's harder to...
You could do the same thing. So they're like young teenagers played by 20-somethings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's the evil librarian coming after them. And it's like all these really academic kids who want to go places and have a lot of potential, right? And then this librarian's like, I will give you the power. Here is knowledge. And now you're my slave and I'm killing you. But the kids revolt and end up killing the evil librarian.
Okay.
Proving that education...
That knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
And power corrupts.
Study hard, be evil.
Exactly.
That was anyway.
That was an interesting tangent.
It was. I'm glad we pursued it to its bitter end.
But again, real quick, doesn't that sound like a movie title you'd find yourself scrolling over on Netflix like 3 a.m. when you can't fall asleep?
Well, we didn't come up with a title for it, but it does sound like the synopsis of one. Yes.
Making kids bleed.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Anyway.
Back to the plot.
Sebastian thinks she's found an evil kid snatcher and duplicates herself using her cloning ability to track him.
Yes.
And then she calls Donald and tells him all about it. Confusingly, but eventually they get the point across.
Yes. And so now we have basically 2 plots going on. We have Virginia being suspicious of this customer, not actively doing anything yet.
Right.
But being suspicious of this customer, keeping an eye on him. And now we have Sebastian actively chasing after this kid murderer.
Right. Well, Sebastian's clone.
Yes.
So.
Because, can't be bothered to do it yourself.
Well, she's at work.
True. And it is important, like, oh, look, I'm here. So it's like a decoy.
Right.
So, and...
strong alibi. If you have a clone, it's the perfect alibi.
Exactly. And Donald is stuck at work.
Yes, as the Taco Bear.
Taco Bear.
Taco Bear.
Taco Bear.
I
Do you want to just say that back and forth for the rest of the podcast?
I think so.
Okay, ready?
Just
go.
So, the Taco Bear.
Taco Bear.
Taco Bear is
Taco
so
Bear.
ridiculous.
It is.
I love the concept. I feel like they just found a bear costume in a Mexican restaurant that let them film out front.
I guarantee you that's what happened, because how often do you associate a bear with Mexican food?
You don't, ever.
No.
Never.
No.
So it's interesting. I really want to know how much extra traffic the restaurant gets because of their Taco Bear. Is he a significant boost to sales?
Well, imagine, Nick, we just said, how many Mexican restaurants have a Taco Bear? None. So if you're the one restaurant with the Taco Bear, you get people talking. Like, oh,
maybe.
Man, that Mexican restaurant has a Taco Bear.
Right.
We have to eat there. Dude, they probably like bear meat in their tacos. It's exotic.
It's exotic and illegal.
And illegal.
Okay.
But and that's how we wrap up the episode.
Yeah.
Is kind of setting up this fact that there's great potential that they can achieve, but they still have to face everyday life.
Yes. And there's some mystery sort of cliffhangers going on. Like, what will happen with creepy bearded yarn guy,
Yes.
and kid snatcher.
Kid snatcher.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? We don't know.
The evil librarian.
The evil librarian. Ben Linus.
Yes. But that being said, that's about all on plot. So let's move on to our thoughts on the characters.
Okay, let's do it.
Lots to talk about here.
Indeed.
Now, I broke down, normally it's just our thoughts on the characters, but I broke this down into 2 separate subcategories.
Right.
The first being their jobs.
Yes, this is important as it's their daily source of income and sort of their cover story.
It's also important because it's the title of the episode.
Sure, some emphasis has been placed on this.
And it gives us better, I guess, backstory to the characters and what they do.
Yes.
Because we didn't really know what they did as a career until now.
Well, every Superman needs a Clark Kent.
This is
every
true.
Clark Kent needs a Daily Planet.
And every Donald needs a Taco Bear.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
that was the point.
I love
was drawing parallels.
I love how he has a costume in his mundane everyday job, but then when he's like doing superhero stuff, he doesn't really have a costume. At least not yet.
Not yet.
So, interesting. Maybe he should
That
have
is
kept
kind of strange.
Maybe he should have kept the Taco Bear as his superhero costume.
The electric Taco Bear.
Electro Disco Bear. And he just
He just-
imagine, Nick, how terrified would you be
If he's doing this and just every time there's lightning bolts, yeah. I would be intimidated by a bear wielding tacos and lightning bolts.
Could you imagine, like, if you were a mugger trying to mug somebody in a dark alleyway at 2 a.m, and this guy dressed in a bear costume just yells at the top of his lungs, chasing you with Sith lightning coming out of his paws?
Yes. Pause. I like your last minute adjustment there.
How terrified would you be, and would you think you were on drugs?
I would absolutely assume that the tacos I'd eaten earlier were drugged, yes.
Would you be terrified, though?
Absolutely.
I'd be scared out of my mind.
I don't think I would find myself mugging anybody.
I think this is
But I feel like the victim would be just as terrified. So I don't know if it helps.
This is almost the perfect supervillain right here.
The Taco Bear?
The Taco Bear.
I don't know about that. I don't think that's true at all, but
It's this guy, okay,
okay.
hear me out. A forest ranger is on patrol, sees a bear
Right.
that's injured, goes over to help it. Bear got stuck in a big puddle of toxic waste. Lightning strikes,
Sure.
fusing the two together
Exactly.
and infusing them with electricity.
And the ranger was eating a taco at the time.
Yes.
So
So it's 1/3 taco, 1/3 person, 1/3 bear that can shoot lightning, and now he's seeking evil in the world.
why?
I don't know. We need to come up with the motivation, but let's make our direct-to-DVD movie, and that's going to be our plot.
Okay.
We now have 2 movies to make. We have the Evil Librarian movie, and we have the...
I think he'll have to be like the scourge of hunters. Like he'll witness a hunter taking down a deer or something and be so upset with the inhumanity of humans.
So it'd almost be like a monster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, those are our 2 movies. We've got to make those. Write those down. Take notes. Those will be airing here soon.
No.
Just for you guys.
It's not true at all.
No. So anyways, we get to learn more about the characters. Obviously, we've already talked about this at length. But Donald works as a taco bear.
He does.
Which I've always thought those kind of jobs are like the lowest of the low.
They absolutely are.
Because, I mean, you see these all the time. There's like the sign twirlers or the people that dress up in stupid costumes and wave at cars. I always wonder, how much does it actually help?
It actually surprisingly helps a lot.
Does it really?
A lot of cities have ordinances where they can't have flashing signs, and so they hire these people instead of that because they'll actually draw attention to the fact that there's a business located in the subdivision. So people driving by might not know that there's a pizza place in the back corner of this. But if there's a guy in a pizza costume spinning a sign around, they'll say, oh, there is pizza. Pizza sounds good.
See, I've never once while driving seen somebody twirling a sign and been motivated to actually go check it out.
Neither have I, but you would honestly be surprised because I have a sign twirler at my job. I work at Papa Murphy's, and anytime our sign twirler's out there, we'll have people come in because the sign says $5 pizzas on it, and they'll come in and say, what was that $5 pizza sign about?
Really?
It happens at least every 4 to 5 customers it happens.
Maybe we should get a sign twirler.
I somehow feel like that wouldn't help.
We'll make a sign that says, now live streaming, youtube.com/ProactiveSlackers, have our sign twirler go out to the nearest busy intersection and twirl the sign and see how many people tune in for a live stream.
Not encourage people to be watching live streams whilst driving.
Oh,
That's
but Nick,
that's
we'd have viewers
until we had dead fans.
Oh, ooh. good point.
That's
That's a bad call.
we want our fans to live long, prosperous lives.
Although there's a lot of sign twirlers that are very impressive. Like they almost do breakdancing. Like they throw the sign 20 feet up in the air and like do a triple 360 jump kick spin dive and then catch it again. It's like, wow.
While it's cool, it's not impressive.
I think it's a bit impressive.
Is it really impressive? Because what that signifies is, one, they either spent time at home practicing sign twirling, or two, they've been sign twirling so long that they're that good.
That would suck.
Do you see why it's not impressive?
Well, it's still impressive. It's just sad.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. Let's go back to this
Yes.
this whole web show that we were supposed to be talking about.
Platoon of Power Squadron?
I feel like you're distracted.
I am just a little bit.
Okay.
But thank you for getting me back on track.
So jobs are Virginia works at the yarn store
Yes.
because she knits, presumably. So it's a support for her hobby, pretty much.
Yeah, and doing what you love, basically.
Exactly. Which is nice, but it's still probably like minimum wage or something.
Probably. And then Sebastian works at a bookstore,
Yes.
which I would love, personally.
I don't know.
Really?
I like books. I don't feel like most of the customers that would be asking you questions are the ones you want to be talking to about books.
True.
If I worked at a bookstore, I never talk to anybody who works at a bookstore. I always can find stuff myself. I understand sorting systems and alphabets, so I can find books. But the people who can't are not the people I want to be talking to about literature.
Yeah, I guess. Fair point. I guess a lot of people don't really go into bookstores for fine quality literature most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time not.
It's like for Kindles or journals or photography books or humor books, but never like the
or
good
gifts.
Or gifts, yeah.
Yeah.
But never like the good quality
Exactly.
literature. But Sebastian works at a bookstore,
Yes.
and then we don't really see what Jonas does.
Not yet.
No, we don't see what he does as a job, but we do get hints in his dialogue.
Yes, he is quite clearly a superhero nerd, aficionado of some kind.
Yes, and so we won't spoil it, but what job would give you access to superhero content that you could fill your brain
Yes. Now, his job is one I would like,
with? Oh, yeah.
because those customers do come in to talk about the relevant subject.
Yes, but you are teasing his job
A
without
bit.
our audience knowing what his job is.
Exactly. So let's move on.
Yes. Next part about the thoughts on the characters is their outlooks on superpowers and how superpowers should be handled.
Yes,
Now, this is very important.
absolutely. It might be the core motivation for most of the characters.
Yes. And it's a very pressing question that needs to be addressed,
Yes.
but also a complex one that can't just be like, boom, there's the answer.
Yeah.
Like you have to figure it out, and the characters have to process and digest it over the course of numerous episodes.
Exactly.
And I almost see it on a spectrum.
I would agree with you at this. Yeah.
There's a spectrum between Jonas and Donald, and Jonas and Donald are on opposite ends
Yes, they are.
on how they think it should be viewed. And we saw this a little bit in the dialogue that the two characters had. They didn't have the dialogue with each other, but we still see each character talking. Again, Jonas is like, okay, we should lie low, not really use our powers, just try to live as normal people. Otherwise, people are going to be watching us, and things are going to get bad.
Yeah.
And Donald's like, okay, bad things happen in the world, and if we have the power to stop it, we should do that.
We have an obligation to.
Exactly. And that's the spectrum, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say they're on opposite ends.
Yes. And I would think it's also fair to say that Virginia and Sebastian are somewhere in between.
Yes. Because I feel like Virginia is more towards the Jonas end of the spectrum,
Yes.
and Sebastian more on the Donald end of the spectrum.
Yes. But I would say for different reasons. Sebastian kind of just thinks her power is really cool.
Yeah.
And so she wants to use it pretty much regardless of the motivation.
Right. And her character is very lighthearted and seeking fun anyways.
Yes.
So that's her main motivation, honestly.
Yeah. And Virginia's power is not very active. It's sort of like a passive thing where she activates time stopping and then can do things, but it's not like a demonstration. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So like instead of actively getting lightning and throwing it at people, she stops time, does whatever, goes back, starts time again. she can do cool things with it, but it's not something that she can like share with the world because no one else can stop time.
Exactly. Right. And I think Sebastian, her motivation in this creepy kid murderer is just, I think there's a small grain which she does want to like figure out the case and help people.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority of her motivation is powers and fun and solving stuff.
This
yay.
This will be fun.
Right.
Is what she thinks, and then clones herself.
Right. And then Donald is supporting her, but because he actually thinks, oh, this is someone who needs help.
Right.
Not because, oh, it's going to be fun and a big adventure, but we can help someone.
Exactly.
So that's like that half of the spectrum. Virginia, more passive. I think she's more sitting back and still trying to figure out what she thinks about the powers.
Yeah. She's definitely the most reluctant with her thoughts about it.
Yeah. I think she's more concerned about where they come from.
Yes, absolutely.
And wanting to figure that out. I think she does have an inkling of, well, I should probably use it for good, but I do think it's best to not use it if I don't have to.
Exactly. Almost a sort of, I want to do good, but regardless of my superpowered state.
Yeah. I think for her, superpowers are a backup, not necessarily a last resort, but very close to a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to draw attention because things get bad, but I'll still use them if I have to.
Yes.
And then Jonas is on the far end where it's like, nope, not at all. Not using them at all.
No, and he definitely has the self-control to enact that.
Yes. And we get much more on that later, and much more on each individual character's views of superpowers, and they change progressively over the series.
Yes.
And it's very intriguing. So we're always going to be coming back to this because it's pretty much the driving force of the story so far.
I would absolutely say so, especially the characterization.
Yes.
Speaking of superpowers, I have a hypothetical question concerning Sebastian.
Yes.
We saw her clone herself and then take off after creepy librarian Ben Linus.
Yes.
And she pulled a cell phone out of her pocket then to call Donald and inform him what was going on. But all of her clothes get copied every time she duplicates herself. I would assume then her cell phone does as well.
Okay. So anything that's within contact.
Right. Is it the exact same cell phone? Does it have the same number? Is it a literal exact copy of it?
Well, I would assume so because she is a literal carbon copy of herself when she clones herself. So I'm assuming as are her clothes and her phone. Yeah.
Exactly. So what happens when you call her? Because clearly outgoing calls would be handled just fine.
Right.
But if you call her, does her phone ring twice?
Do like both phones ring independently?
Yeah. Or is it...
And then what does that mean you'd have to answer both phones simultaneously for it to work?
I don't know. I feel like it would work with just the one phone, but then what happens to the other one?
Huh.
I don't know. I'm very confused. Also, I just thought of an easy way for her to make money. She just puts like money in her pockets and duplicates herself.
And then takes it out when...
Right.
That's a very... That's a solid plan, Nick.
Yeah.
Because what we do know is that if she makes physical contact with one of her clones, it reabsorbs the clone.
Yes.
But she could just duplicate herself, right?
Take all the money out, put it somewhere else, reabsorb the clone, put the money back in her pocket, and do it again, and she's doubling her money every time.
True. Although, question, do the rules of reabsorption apply to everything that was in contact of the clone when the clone was created? Because then it wouldn't matter if you set the money down on the table, it'd be reabsorbed anyways.
Yes. Unless she had Donald pick up the money, take it to the bank and deposit it, and then give her a wire transfer for that money back.
Oh, so just create the money in a digital format first.
Well, she creates the money in the physical format,
right?
Then doesn't reabsorb it because she has someone else touch it because they can. And then puts it digitally, and then the bank loses $20 because it evaporates or whatever.
Well, I'm thinking even if somebody else touched it, it would still absorb, right?
Why? Because other people can touch her clones.
Yes, but when she absorbs the clone, I'm assuming the money would then be absorbed with it. Maybe.
Right, but that's why you deposit at the bank first.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying, is you deposit it, wait for that to electronically be registered on your online banking app,
Yeah,
and then absorb it back.
exactly.
So then they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Must have gone misplaced or robbed or something.
The bank lost it.
Although I'm assuming eventually they would get suspicious if it's only your account that was happening to.
Well, no, because the bank takes all the money, cash money, and puts it in one place. And then you just wait till like a couple days to reabsorb.
I like this.
It's a complex system, but it's
very
infinite money.
very roundabout. But
Yeah.
Nick, I think it's possible. I like how we solved. We were like, well, she could just duplicate her money. Oh, but what if it gets reabsorbed? Oh,
Yeah.
we found a solution.
Exactly.
Boom.
So
That was fun.
you're welcome, Sebastian. You can now be as rich as you want.
There we go.
Okay, that satisfied my curiosity about her powers.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's a very good point. Last thing I have on the characters is they have depth,
Yes, they definitely do.
which I like because this is a very sitcom-y kind of show. It does, over the course of the series, a little bit of a spoiler, it does get more of a dramedy feel where you do have very serious and dark elements, but with a lot of comedy mixed in.
Don't like that. That's a word. I still don't like it.
Dramedy is an amazing
Don't
word.
like it.
It's my favorite word, Nick. Dramedy, 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 dramedy. Yeah. So, and I'm choking. Anyway, I do like that the characters have depth because most of the time in like a sitcom or a comedic environment, the characters are very flat because we don't want to get invested in them. We just want them to be funny and make us laugh.
Right, and we don't want them to change because then they might have to find a different way to be funny.
Exactly. But I like having both. I like being able to invest in my characters, be able to see them change, but also be entertained by them.
Yes.
And this show does it perfectly. Little details that add to the depth of the character. Little tiny details that you wouldn't necessarily think of that give the character their own personality. And what I'm talking about specifically in episode 2 is they have their own hobbies that they're doing in the background. Now, this has been the case in episode 1 as well. I just noticed it. But we see Virginia knitting in the background.
Avid knitter.
Which makes sense because the actress, Eliza, knits.
Yes. Absolutely.
So she has the skill set, and it transcends to her character.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the case for most of these. I feel the personality of the character is heavily influenced by the personality of the actor.
Yes.
Especially, or most notably, in Craig's character, because seeing him in Wheezy Waiter, as Wheezy Waiter, his YouTube channel, the character that he plays in PoPS has a very similar feel to that sort of humor and cadence.
Yeah, I feel like he brings his style of performance to the show.
Absolutely.
So, and then Sebastian is always in the background reading.
Yes.
And it's funny because she works at a bookstore. Well, her clones work at a bookstore, and she's like, I'll just read.
Yeah. I think
I'll stay
she
home.
might like take books from the bookstore, read them, and then put them back on the shelf. I feel like that would be an effective use of her time there.
I think that sounds pretty solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she reads, Virginia knits. Everyone has their own hobby. I also enjoy reading, Nick.
I do too.
And you know who else can enjoy reading with their ears?
Any of our listeners.
Yes, with our Audible program.
Indeed. You can go to audible.com/short series.
Audibletrial.com.
Audibletrial.com/short series. They have over 150,000 downloadable titles.
Yep.
Across all types of literature.
And for any device, your iPhone, Kindle, MP3, whatever you want, you can get an audiobook.
So go check it out, listen to an audiobook, and be like Sebastian.
Yep. If you go to audibletrial.com/short series, you will get a 30-day free trial. Because, spending money, not fun.
No.
Maybe if you have the ability to clone yourself and duplicate your money over and over again, it wouldn't be that big of an issue. But
True.
even then, it's a hassle. So
Right.
getting things for free
Is
much
always
better.
good.
Much better than creating an endless bank deposit money scheme loop.
Right.
It's just easier. So they'll give you a free audiobook download and free 30-day trial. And what's a book that you would recommend, Nick?
You're just going to put me on the spot like that? You spent so much time prepping a book of your own
Okay.
that you just throw me under the bus like that?
Yes, because I wanted to make you look like a fool. And now
Okay.
that has been achieved, we can help our audience not look like a fool by knowing a whole bunch of random information about the world around them with Freakonomics.
That's a good book.
It is a good book.
I let you borrow that book because it's such a great book.
I purposely planned out that segue to make you look like a fool just so I could say that.
I don't like that you've done this.
So go head over to...
I swear I will be prepared.
Okay.
From now on, I will have a book ready every time.
You should.
Specifically to avoid this situation.
You should. So head over to audibletrial.com/short series. Get yourself Freakonomics. It's a wonderful book about how things are linked when you wouldn't think they'd actually be linked.
It's very strange, actually.
And you could...
Freaky, almost.
Yeah. You might say freaky.
I believe that the audio version is read by the author as well.
Yes.
So it's very true to the form.
Yes. So go check that out. Get yourself smarter and do it.
Absolutely.
But that being said, Nick, let's move on to our thoughts on the creative elements.
That sounds like a plan.
Yes. Now, one of the reasons we started up the review of this particular series
Yes.
is because it's a great demonstration about how equipment doesn't really matter.
Right.
And just start if you want to create something. If you want to create a video, podcast, whatever you want to do,
just do it.
Just start and you'll progressively get better. Whatever you do, the first one is not going to be that great and you're going to improve every single time. And that's what PoPS is. The difference between episode 1 and episode 7
is astounding.
Vast. Episode 7 literally looks like I could go to my local movie theater and watch it there.
Yes.
It is movie quality. And obviously, if you've watched episode 1 and you're joining us for episode 2, it doesn't start off that way.
Not as much. Episode 2, similar visual quality to episode 1. I feel like they learned a lot about angles and whatnot, so the camera angles themselves will look better. But
yes, and I also believe the visual quality is roughly the same because I think they filmed episode 1 and episode 2 back to back.
I think so as well.
So they filmed it all in one go. But obviously you can tell that they didn't have really the best quality camera.
Right.
Just for the sake of convenience, they wanted to film it and get it filmed. We talked about that with Jake.
Yes, we did.
Because he said at the time he did have access to a better camera that shot in film, but he just wanted to do it quickly, shot it digitally with a camera that wasn't that great. But I love seeing that you don't necessarily need to have the best camera that could shoot in 48K resolution.
That's too many Ks.
That is. But you don't need to have the best camera.
Exactly. He didn't have the best camera, but he did it, and now it's a show. And now he's making episode 7 with like a full crew.
Yes.
And his progression is very apparent, and it's very symbolic, I think, of how you can progress from starting out to great places.
Yeah, you just need to get creative with what you have.
Exactly.
Don't let the equipment be a factor in your downfall. Let it be a factor into improving your creativity to find a way around your issues. Because that's what I love about the early episodes in particular, is they have very unique and stylistic choices going into it.
Yes, that are maintained throughout the series.
Yeah, like the intro to this episode.
Yeah.
It felt very, I don't know, like an CSI investigation-y kind of feel.
Yeah.
With like the close-ups and the color grading to it. It's very like monochrome and
then the time would slow down and speed back up to normal and then slow down again. So it's like super emphasis on small details.
Yes. And it reminded me almost of the big cop movies or investigation movies, and as soon as the detectives are like, it goes in that montage where the detectives finally hit the books and just hunker down and they're almost defeated and they're like flicking through all of the articles and whatnot. It had that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Where everything's serious and also mysterious. And they achieved that with a 240p resolution camera.
And indeed they did.
And creative angles, timing effects, and color grading.
Yes. And it looks good.
Yes.
I can't say that it looks great, but it definitely looks good. And it's certainly probably the best that they could have done with the equipment that they had.
Yeah, and they definitely, I like that you say that. They definitely know how to do the best with what they have. I loved the transitions because I like, and maybe this is just my brain as a filmmaker, I like going through and analyzing things and being like, okay, what if different decisions were made?
Yeah.
And the whole time I was watching episode 2, part 1, I was just thinking, okay, what if these, because I noticed a lot of the transitions have like an audio element that goes with the transition. And I'm like, okay, what if these audio elements weren't there? then they'd just be straight up cuts. Like the scene would end, cut, and then go to the next scene. It'd be kind of awkward and jarring, but they add audio cues to let you know, okay, and we're jumping to a different scene. Subtle little additions that make it so much better. Like, for example, I believe the first time we jump scenes, we see Virginia knitting in the store, eyeing the customer, and then it's Virginia and Jonas talking together, and Jonas is like, oh, well, he could be a bad guy, and, you know, we need to be in the background.
Right.
This is what's called an audio bridge transition. We hear him talking before we actually jump to that scene.
Yes.
So she's staring down the customer, and then we hear Jake saying, you know, we got to be careful. We need to be suspicious of these kind of, and then it jumps over to their conversation.
Yeah, and then you match up what he's saying with his actual face saying it.
Right. So we jump from the issue straight into the dialogue discussing the issue with that bridge that ties the two together.
Exactly.
Which I love this so much, almost to a fault. Like if there was a movie that had every single scene transition have that in there, yes, it'd be overkill, but I would still love it.
I don't think that's true. I feel like it can't happen every time or it's too much.
True.
I feel like it would lose its effectiveness very quickly. And then you would just kind of be confused orally. Like what am I listening to? Where is what I'm listening to taking place?
I guess. But I love, I guess every creative person and every film lover has their own little tiny things that they love about film. This is one of mine.
Okay.
I just love this.
I agree. I think it's awesome. I don't have the same relationship that you have with it.
Interesting word, but
I feel like it's appropriate.
I do have an intimate relationship with audio bridges. And another thing, it's along the same line, but there are certain transitions where it would have been just a hard cut, but they add just like a little and then it cuts.
Yeah.
So it's lets you know, okay, something's changing, and boom, new scene.
Yes. And that sound effect that you...
How many more times can we do this, Nick?
I don't know,
okay.
But I feel like that sound effect specifically, and also I love the fact that I know exactly what you're talking about by just that weird noise you made.
That
exactly. That, I feel, lends the element of cheesiness that it needs to be able to pull this off, because clearly it's not, Star Wars level special effects.
Right.
But,
well,
so it needs a certain amount of cheesiness to be believable, to get past that.
And I want to even use the word cheesiness. I would just say lightheartedness.
Yeah.
Whimsicalness.
Yeah.
Because that is something that you do see over the course of the show is as the production quality goes up, the severity level and the darkness level also goes up.
Yeah. Because there's a barrier there where if you can't believe what you're seeing, then you can't associate it with reality.
Right.
And I feel like the sound effects they're using, especially in the earlier episodes, helps get over that.
Right. All of the lighthearted, whimsical music and the swish pans, special sound effects, whatnot. I like it.
Indeed. It's definitely the creative choices helped solidify the impact.
Right. But that being said, that's about all I have in terms of creative elements.
Yeah.
The cloning effect we've already talked about in the previous episode review.
Yes. The most of the effects, as far as the powers go, are the very similar, I feel.
Yes, and again, the quality production value goes through the roof in the next few episodes. So the superpowers and the effects used to display the superpowers get so much cooler. So we'll definitely keep talking about those as they change. But for now, that's about all I have.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which means it's time for how this holds up against big time media. We won't spend a huge time here because we talked about a lot of it in the creative elements section.
Yes.
I just want to point out, this has the highest rating ever for IMDb.
What is the rating?
8.9.
That is unheard of.
Yes. This is... Okay.
Was this rated before IMDb became the cynical website that it is today?
I feel like it might have, because this was posted in 2009.
Okay.
So 5 years ago.
I feel like IMDb has rapidly aged into an extreme cynic. Almost like you.
Oh.
Just saying.
It's true.
But their ratings are always very, very low. And in this case, apparently not.
Yep. So I think it's a very appropriate rating.
I would agree. Clearly, had they had better equipment, it would be a significantly better production.
Yes.
but they definitely made the best of what they have, and it's very enjoyable to watch nonetheless.
Yes.
So-
And I don't think... Do you think we should give our own personal ratings for every episode? Or do you want to wait till the very end of the series and give it a holistic rating? Or do you want to do both?
I cannot remember what we did at the end of the last one. I feel like we shouldn't judge the whole episode on one part.
True.
So at the end of the episode,
Okay.
at the end of episode 2, we can give it a holistic rating for that episode.
Okay. I like this idea. So join us then, and we will give it our own personal rating.
Yes,
But until then, we want to thank you guys for tuning in.
absolutely.
Because this is going to wrap it up. If you guys want to lend feedback to what you think of PoPS Episode 2 or anything else we watch, or just tell us we're awesome because, we are,
Yeah.
then you could send us some feedback.
You can also inform Devin how contrived he is.
Or you could just tell me I'm awesome because I'd prefer that.
Okay. Anyway, you can email us at feedback@ProactiveSlackerMedia.com or call our Google Voice line and leave us a message. We can play it on the podcast for everybody to hear. The number there is 720-295-0885. Just call it and leave a voicemail message.
Yes, and a new way you could also leave feedback is in the YouTube comments.
Yes, down below, if you're watching this video podcast,
Yes.
it's a video now.
Did I mention, Nick, that this is a video podcast?
It is. So
Okay.
if you're watching it on YouTube, leave a comment below and we will see it.
Yes. But if you're listening to this, then Nick, where can they find our YouTube page?
Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/ProactiveSlackers.
Yes. So go check it out. Subscribe. I don't know, maybe if you want video awesomeness and our
Right.
sexy faces.
Right. You can put a delicious face to that delicious voice.
You know it.
Not,
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't talking about Devin.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess you do have a beard, so
Sure.
by default you're more attractive.
Okay. Apparently.
But also, you could definitely check us out on our website
ProactiveSlackerMedia.com.
or our Facebook
Facebook.com/ProactiveSlackerMedia.
or our Twitter.
Twitter.com/PSM_company.
And speaking of Twitter, we have our own personal Twitters. Mine is Devyn_H. That's DEVYNN_H.
And I'm at ProSlackerNick.
Yes.
And speaking of Twitter,
yes.
that is one of the easiest ways to know when we're live broadcasting.
Yes, we will tweet it out, and when we are live broadcasting and actually have viewers, because no one cares about us, Nick.
Right. That's
No one tuned in.
I feel like it's understandable.
Do you think my fake tears will convince them?
No.
Do you think it'll deter them?
No.
Okay.
I feel like they'll go neither way.
Okay. We use our Twitter to interact with you guys during the live feed.
Yes.
So you guys can tweet at us questions or comments, and we will see those and be able to respond to those
in real time.
In real time.
In real time.
Well, on a 30-second delay.
It's true.
But
on a real enough time.
Yeah. It's amazing, Nick.
Okay.
And that being said, there's a few more links we have for you guys. One of which is our Patreon page, patreon.com/PSM. It's a little way to give a monthly donation, which helps us get better gear to make better stuff for you guys.
Absolutely. How is Patreon spelled? Because
Yes.
it confused me the first time I heard it.
Yes, it's patreon.com/PSM. If you're watching us on YouTube, there'll also be a link in the description.
Yes. Much easier to click that than spell it.
Yes. And then there's also our Cafe Press store.
cafepress.com/ProactiveSlackers. You can get yourself a mug. If you had coffee
Or tea.
or
soda.
or any sort of liquid,
Yes. It will hold.
even cereal.
You could eat cereal out of a mug.
You could.
You could go a hipster and be like, bowls are too mainstream. I'm
Right.
going mug.
It needs to be more cylindrical.
And speaking of which, it has our company's mug on the mug. Get it?
I see what you've done there.
Because it's a mug
But-
shot.
Right.
Right.
From the right.
Yeah.
Mugs.
Mugs.
Okay. Buy one today. In the video stream, if you're watching,
You can see
you
Nick.
can see me hold it.
It's beautiful, is it
I'm
not?
Basically the next Vanna White.
I designed that on Photoshop. Amazing.
Thank you, Devin.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And also want to let you guys know what we're going to be watching next week here on the not the Proactive Slacker podcast, Nick. That's a different podcast.
one.
But we do
Check that one out as well.
Yeah, watch that one too because it's awesome. Here on the Shorts and Series podcast,
Right.
next week we're going to be watching Symmerty, which is a palindromic film.
Yes. I still do not believe, Devin, that it's a thing.
Yes, basically, it's amazing. It's on Vimeo. Go check it out. Type in Symmetry into Vimeo. You can find it. Or if you want the exact URL, it's vimeo.com/81151091. A lot of ones.
Okay.
And basically, the whole film is a palindrome.
Okay, the Vimeo number should have been a palindrome.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome.
That would have. I don't think you can control that, though.
I don't think so.
But basically, the last half of the film is exactly the same as the first half of the film, but played backwards and mirrored. And you might say, well, that sounds dumb. Watch it. Watch it. You will be amazed. It's very abstract, but the story it tells and the fact that it manages to tell a distinct story in this way is amazing. It's so good. So good, Nick.
I'm looking forward to finding out just how good it is.
Yes. So go watch it. We'll put links up on Facebook, Twitter, and our website just to give you more of an incentive to go there.
Okay.
So that being said, that's going to wrap it up.
We will see you guys next Sunday for another live podcast.
Yes. And next Thursday for a live podcast of the Proactive Slacker podcast.
Indeed. We start the podcast about 10:30 p.m. Central Mountain Time.
Yeah, between 10 and 10:30, depending on how the technology cooperates with us.
Exactly. Also, the shorts of the series can go a little bit later because we have to watch and take notes.
Yes.
So
thank you guys for watching or listening, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.